Hi, my name is Kaylee. I'm a doctor of pediatric physical therapy and a mama of two and a creator of the Movement Mama community, where I encourage parents in all things motherhood and motor milestones. Today, I want to talk to you about baby wearing, specifically with a wrap carrier. But first, I want to tell you a little story. So when I had my first daughter, I knew that I wanted to try to baby wear, but didn't know how that would look. Fast forward to her actually being here, and she would only take contact naps. And as a busybody, that was so hard for me to just sit and snuggle. I loved the cuddles, but I also felt like I needed to be getting things done. I wanted to be able to go to the store or cook dinner or tidy up around the house. And I basically decided I need to try baby wearing. And so I committed myself that I was going to learn to baby wear. And what I will tell you is that wrapping a baby carrier, really any kind of carrier that you have to put on yourself, is sort of like riding a bike. You need to practice over and over and over again, and then eventually it clicks and you get that exhilarating feeling of the benefits of baby wearing, how amazing it is to have your baby on you and also be able to do things for yourself or for the rest of your family, or later for me, for my toddler when I had a new baby. But that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't understand, is that they try it and it feels difficult and so they don't move on. And the last thing I'll say is, if your baby doesn't like it, or if you feel uncomfortable, like they feel like they're gonna fall out, or it feels too loose and shifty, or like you can't get things done, most likely you are tying it incorrectly. Most often people tie it way too loose and it is uncomfortable, and baby feels unsupported, you feel unsupported, and it's just a bad scenario all around. So that's what I'm hoping to address today, is to help you get the wrap right, feel confident in it, and be able to move forward practicing over the next couple days, committing every day. That's what I did, is every day for a week I said, I'm going to try to wrap this thing, I'm going to try to figure it out, and then we got it. And it was this beautiful experience for both of us that I cherished with both of my babies. So I'm going to start by showing you, this is a stretchy wrap carrier from Lily Baby. Any brand will do though. I also love Solly Baby. I've heard great things about lots of different brands, and I'll actually try to link below some of my favorite baby carriers. So the first one I got to use was a wrap carrier like this. I'll also be doing a tutorial on my ring sling as well, and talking about a few other baby wearing things on my page. So be sure to hit that subscribe button below so you don't miss any of that content. So wrap carriers are often very, very long, and that can be cumbersome. So when you're first trying to wrap it, make sure you're wrapping it at home so it's not on the dirty ground. You can, if you are wrapping outside, loop this up and just tie it in a little knot. Kind of show you what that looks like here. Doesn't have to be perfect or pretty or anything, but it's basically, I just folded the end over on itself, so I'll show you that again. So that when you're wrapping out in public, it's not dragging the ground. So basically you would find the middle. The middle is where most brands have a little tag like this. And then I'm gonna go down to the end here, and I'm gonna loop it up and just tie a little knot. You can even do a double knot, whatever works for you, looping this in on itself, and then that way it isn't dragging the ground. So I am gonna back up. My number one tip is when you're first learning to wrap, and really I continue to do this now, it helps me to see myself on the video here, is to use a mirror. So go into your bathroom, go somewhere in your house that you have a long mirror that you can see yourself. Even when you're putting baby in, it can feel like you're fumbling around if you don't have a visual feedback to tell you how you're doing. So I've got one side knotted here. I'll leave the other side unknotted just so you can kind of see what that looks like, but that would solve your problem of wrapping in public. You're gonna find this little logo here, and you're gonna place it over your sternum, so over your chest bone, and you're gonna wrap your arms behind your back. So I'm gonna kind of show you what I'm doing here. I'm wrapping my arms behind my back, and I'm gonna crisscross and grab this other side and this side. And we want to kind of ensure that that fabric is spread out. So you don't want it to be all bunched up. You want it to be pretty wide and spread out here. So you're going to crisscross and wrap around. And then you're actually going to bring it up over your shoulder. Okay, so we're thinking almost like we want to completely cover our shoulders here. And just for symmetry, I'll do another video just showing it being knotted and how to tie it with them both knotted, but just for symmetry to show you guys, I'm going to loosen this one so you can see. So I'm going to pull my shirt down here. If you are a nursing mom, you want to make sure that you're thinking about your clothing with this one. So whether it be you're wearing a nursing friendly sweatshirt or tank or t-shirt or whatever, when I was in the newborn phases with both of my babies, I would literally just, and it was in the winter, so it was cold, but I would wear just a nursing tank and then I would wear this over it all day long. That's one of my best tips too, is to, once you get it wrapped how you want it, if you're feeling uncomfortable and flustered with it, just leave it on all day long, especially if you've got something nursing friendly on, it's totally fine to do that. So I promise at the end, I'm gonna go back through and I'm gonna do it all in one fell swoop and not stop. But I like to give you guys these little pieces of advice that I wish I would have had when I was a first time mom. So you can see in the back here, I've got it spread out wide. The X needs to go right between our shoulder blades. This ensures that baby's weight is distributed evenly between our shoulders and also carried mostly up on our upper chest. One thing we want to avoid, and one thing I often see, is people carrying their babies down way too low, where we have all of those really weakened postpartum abdominal muscles or the lack thereof. And when we carry them down really low, it puts a lot of strain on our lower back. Same thing for here, making sure this fabric is sheathed over our shoulders so that the weight is evenly distributed and our shoulders are able to bear a lot of their weight here. So then I grab this. This is just how I personally do it. I'll kind of step back here. I grab it and pull it together and I kind of loop it up. This doesn't matter. All you're gonna do is make sure that you can shove it through that piece that's going around your torso. And so then I readjust. I make sure this didn't get flipped. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull, when you pull on these pieces of fabric that are hanging down, it's going to tighten the part that goes around baby. So right now, if I can pull it out like that, that is way too loose for my baby. You want to err on the side of tighter rather than looser, because we can always loosen a lot easier than we can tighten with a wrap carrier. And as baby is in this, their body warmth and their weight is going to start to expand the fabric. So we want it to be tighter rather than looser. So this is going to stay in your torso, and I can feel that this is pretty loose. So I want to make sure I'm getting this tightened up here, and you can kind of see it start to tighten. I'm going to tighten both sides, pulling down to tighten. Okay, so I can feel that it's tightening on me here. This one is very loose and worn out from a lot of use. You can launder your wrap carriers. That will help them shrink back up. You just want to make sure that you're following the laundering instructions that come with your wrap. So next step, we pulled it through, we tightened it. We're next going to crisscross this fabric. So my belly button is right here. I want to make sure that this crisscross is above my belly button. And the reason for that being is, again, we want to carry baby higher up on our chest and avoid carrying them in our midsection or our lower abdomen, because that can cause a lot of pressure and it can also just be uncomfortable for you. We want baby to be close enough to kiss. So if they're too low as well, especially when they're really little, they won't be close enough to kiss. So I'm going to crisscross this above my belly button and I go into the back. Now here, I like to tie a knot to just make sure it's going to be secure. I don't tie a full knot, I just do a crisscross here, and I make sure again that it is above my belly button, keeping most of the weight of the baby above my hips. And then you can go around here, and this is kind of up to you. I usually tie it on the side here to where these aren't getting in my way. You can tie it a regular knot, you can tie it in a bow, whatever you need to do. I'm pretty tall, so I can deal with some of this stuff hanging down, but if you're shorter, you know, you can tie it in a bow, that can help, or you can even tie it in the back once more. So I'm gonna grab my little baby doll. Of course, baby dolls never show truly how it is with a baby. The most important thing we want to remember is an imposition of our baby's hips. Before the age of 6 months of age, that imposition of the hips, meaning their knees, I'm gonna step back and show you, meaning their knees and feet form an M. So their knees are above hip level, or at hip level. We never want legs hanging down. This increases the risk for hip dysplasia, and having baby's hips up in this M position actually helps mold and form their hip socket. So when you're getting baby in, my baby doll will not show this, but you want their knees to be above their hips, okay? Close enough to kiss as well, and their airway clearly visible. Those are the 3 most important safety things we want to think about when putting baby in. So I also recommend that you try doing this when baby is really content and happy. I don't want you trying this at a time where it's the witching hour and you think, I've been meaning to do my wrap carrier because I think this will help my baby feel close and I can get dinner cooked. No, that is a terrible time to try anything new. You will be flustered, your baby will sense it. So try this maybe after baby has just fed and they're really happy and content. Maybe your partner is there, so you feel like you've got someone else to kind of help you work through it. Try it in a peaceful time. Maybe even practice yourself wrapping this before you've had baby, or practice wrapping it when a support person or your partner is there and they don't need to be in it. Get really confident in those times that are easy so that when the times are hard, you feel like you've got this. You can totally do it and you can get them in. Same thing as before. Looking in a mirror is very, very helpful because you're going to want to be able to see where baby's legs are going. So I'll grab my baby and kind of show you. So when I do this, I get baby up really high on my shoulder. This can be nice when they're newborns, especially because they don't have that head control yet, and you're going to need your hands free to be helping maneuver their body into the wrap. So we don't want to be having them down here, because what's going to happen when we move to their legs is their little head is going to flop back and be really out of control. So I love kind of slinging them over my shoulder so that their head naturally with gravity just kind of falls forward, if that makes sense. And so you're going to shift this torso piece down and you're going to put one leg in, get them in there. And if they're a newborn, it's okay to have their feet tucked up inside. If they're pretty little and it's just swallowing them up, it's totally fine. If you start to notice though that they start pushing against that and trying to extend out, we want to make sure those little feet are out. So where we're looking for is having the edge of the fabric behind their knee and pulling that sheath of fabric across their back to the opposite hip crease. So kind of the outside of their little butt cheek here. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. And this is where that mirror really comes in handy, is so you can really see where on them you're getting this. So you're not looking down and they're crying or fussing. And it's very normal for them to fuss when you first start putting them in, because they have no idea what's going on, right? So I've got this sheath across to the opposite hip crease. And again, I'm going to go through wrapping it from start to finish without talking, other than just talking you through it in just a second, okay? So we've got this sheathed across. Babe is close enough to kiss. I like to shift them to one side. Airway is clear. I love to use this to add some head control here, especially when they're little. Then we're gonna take this torso piece and we're gonna pull it up over them. So this can go, the higher this goes on their shoulders without actually reaching their head and neck, the more supported they're gonna feel and the more supported you are going to feel. So same thing here, we want it to kind of be up under those knees. You can even, if there's some excess fabric, you can tuck it under their booty for added support here. That knot that we tied earlier, if you wanna move it up further to just feel more support there as well, that's totally fine. This is obviously a very lightweight baby doll, but if I feel like I can be hands-free and then I lean forward and I think, oh, I feel like the baby's shifting away from me and I have to grab them, your wrap is too loose at that point. If baby is all up in my chin, then they're too high. And we can kind of just shift things down. You just kind of shift the fabric down. You can pull it from your shoulders and shift them down on your chest without actually having to loosen it. Okay, you guys? So you can use that sheath of fabric again, and hopefully they're content and happy. The last tips that I have for you is if you feel like baby gets really fussy and you're wanting to use this to help them get a contact nap, I like to go into the space where they typically are sleeping, make sure the room is dark, like I would have it whenever I'm putting them down for a nap or for bedtime, turn on the sound machine. That helps me calm as well, taking some deep breaths as I'm getting them in. And sometimes as I'm getting them in and I get them in there, I will be patting the bottom and shushing and trying to see. If you try this for a minute or two and you feel like they just keep escalating, we're gonna try it again later. But most often what I find is it's just new and different for us all. They sense our tension and our fear that it's not gonna work. And so they resist at first. They feel uncomfortable. This whole big world is bright and new to them. And so don't be afraid to try to continue to get them used to it for a couple of minutes. Then if you need to take them out, like I said, you can leave your carrier on and try their next wake window. There's no shame in that. And it does make a nice kind of nursing tank cover. I loved doing this whenever I would go out to run errands. I had 2 winter babies and I didn't want to be standing outside in the cold, wrapping my wrap carrier as we were getting ready to go into the grocery store. I also didn't like lugging my big infant carrier. And it's just so nice to have them close to you. Great for baby, great for mom, all around. And so I would actually wrap this before we left the house and have it on when I got to the store. I could even put my coat on over this and still have baby inside, and then you just pull them out of the car seat and into the carrier. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna take this off and I'm gonna show you start to finish how to wrap your wrap carrier. All right, so now from start to finish wrapping your carrier, take the logo and put it on your sternum. Clamp your arms down to hold it in place and crisscross both sides behind your back. I'm going to show you this here. So I'm crisscrossing the fabric, making sure that it's nice and flat across my back. I adjust my shirt to my comfort. And I crisscross, and I'm using a mirror to make sure that the fabric is flat. I grab both pieces of fabric and bunch it up to where I can easily slip it through this torso section. It's going to go through, and I'm going to readjust to make sure that logo is over my sternum and that this isn't too loose. Remember, you can tighten it by pulling down on either side, and we want this to not go too far from our chest. I'm going to continue to tighten this, erring on the side of it being too tight for my first few wraps rather than too loose. I'll step back and show you here. My belly button is here. I'm going to take this fabric and crisscross it over above my belly button, circling around to my back and tying a knot to secure it in place. Then I'll bring it back around, and this is where, depending on the length of the tails that you've got here, you can tie it in a knot. You can tie it in a knot again in the center. You can tie it in a knot on the side, or you can even wrap it back around and tie it in the back. Making sure that all of this fabric is above your hips and above your belly button, so the baby is sitting nice and high. To get baby in, you're gonna lower the torso section. You'll take baby nice and high on your shoulder and sink their foot and leg into one side, drawing the fabric behind the back of their knee, across their torso and their shoulders to the opposite hip crease where their bottom meets their leg. You're going to do the same thing, shifting them over, lifting this leg, tucking in, with that sheath of fabric right behind the knee, pulling across to the opposite hip. This is where that M position comes in, and it's difficult to see with the baby doll, but ideally there would be an M right here. Booty below the knees, and then feet hanging down from the knees down. You'll take that torso piece and pull it up, and this is where you can leave baby's feet in if that feels more comfortable, or you can allow them to come out. I'm going to shift baby down to where they're close enough to kiss. Airway is nice and visible and clear. I can take one sheath of fabric and put it over their head to hold them in place and do the bend forward test. I can feel that the baby is not shifting. I can then also adjust to make sure not too much fabric is bunched up near my neck, which would cause a lot of pressure. The crisscross is between my shoulders, and that's it. I hope this has been helpful. Be sure to tag me at The Movement Mama when you try out baby wearing, and hopefully are loving it as much as I did with my little ones. Be sure to subscribe below for all those other baby wearing tips and tricks that I'll be uploading in the coming weeks so you don't miss a single thing.